My name's Callie Mendoza. I'm 29 now, but I still remember every word of the night my mom kicked me out like I was nothing more than a mistake she regretted making. It's been a decade, and I've built a life so far from who I used to be, it almost feels like I'm telling someone else's story. But it's mine. And it started the day my mother told me I wasn't worthy of being her daughter. Back then, I was 19, barely holding myself together after what happened my first year at UNM. I'd been assaulted by someone I trusted. Someone in my study group. I reported it. Nothing happened to him, but everything collapsed around me. My grades tanked. I couldn't sleep. I'd wake up shaking at 2 a.m. with panic attacks so bad, I thought I was dying. When I came home that summer, I thought I'd find comfort. Instead, I got judged harder than I ever had in my life. My mom, Lucinda, is one of those women who holds herself like a queen. High bun, perfect nails, never a day without lipstick. She's a senior ER nurse, sharp, respected, and the coldest person I've ever met. I used to think she was just strict. But that summer, I realized she was cruel. "You've let yourself go," she said the first morning I came down in sweats and a hoodie, my hair unwashed, my eyes still puffy from crying the night before. "Mom, I didn't sleep. That's not an excuse. You used to be pretty. Now look at you." I stood there, frozen, and she just kept going, like she was commenting on the weather. Every day it got worse. She hated the way I looked, the way I sat. The fact that I didn't want to go to church or smile at her coworkers when they dropped by. She told me I was being dramatic, that what happened to me wasn't rape, that I should get over it. "You're embarrassing to be seen with." She snapped once when I asked to come with her to the grocery store. "People will think I'm failing as a mother." She said that, out loud, with my little cousin sitting right there at the table. I felt so small I didn't even cry. I just sat there staring at my plate like it was going to save me. But nothing prepared me for what happened 2 weeks later. It was a Sunday night. My mom had invited half the family over for carne asada and church gossip. I didn't want to come out of my room. I hadn't showered that day, and I was spiraling again. My heart felt like it was squeezing in on itself. I was trying to breathe through another panic attack when she barged in without knocking. "You need to pull it together. Right now. You're going to come out and act like a normal person." "I can't," I whispered. "What do you mean you can't?" "I'm not okay." That was the moment. Her face changed like something inside her snapped, like I'd embarrassed her one time too many. "If you're going to live in this house, you'll act like a member of this family, not some pathetic mope hiding in the dark." "I'm not trying to be this way, Mom. I'm trying to survive." "Oh, save it," she said, waving her hand like I was some fly buzzing near her wine glass. "You're not a survivor. You're just lazy." My voice cracked. "Why are you being like this?" "You want the truth?" she said. "Fine. I'm done with this little performance. If you don't want to be part of this family, then don't be." "What does that mean?" "It means get out." I thought I misheard her. "Get outside. You don't get to sit here, draining the air out of this house while acting like a victim. Take your drama elsewhere." I stood up slowly. My legs were shaking. "Are you serious?" She didn't even blink. "Pack your things. You're not welcome here anymore." I don't remember walking to my room. Just the sound of my own heart pounding and my hands shaking as I grabbed the backpack I used for school. I stuffed some clothes in. My toothbrush. My journal. The phone charger. Nothing else. When I came back down, my father was standing near the door, not saying a word. He didn't stop me. He didn't look at me. Only one person followed me out the front door. My grandmother, Rosa. She didn't say anything at first. Just looked at me with her weathered eyes, pressed something into my hand. It was $80 in cash, folded around a note. Her voice cracked when she whispered, "Prove her wrong." And with that, the door shut behind me. No plan, no money, no place to go. Just a hoodie, a half-dead phone, and the echo of my mother's voice still ringing in my ears. But that night, I ended up sleeping somewhere I never thought I'd go back to. And that's where everything really began. That night, I ended up sleeping in the back seat of an old dented Kia that used to belong to a friend from high school. He left town months ago and never came back for it. It just sat behind his cousin's repair shop collecting dust. I didn't even ask permission. I just climbed in, locked the doors, and cried myself hoarse. I woke up to the sound of a wrench clanking against concrete. "You okay?" It was Joaquin, the cousin, standing by the open garage. His voice wasn't judgmental, just tired, like mine. I lied. "Yeah." He didn't press, just nodded and said, "The coffee in the office is trash, but it's hot if you want some." For 3 weeks, I lived out of that car. I took sponge baths in gas station bathrooms. I used the last of my cash to buy discount protein bars and packs of applesauce. I didn't have a job, no resume, and definitely no confidence. I kept replaying that night at my mom's over and over. Like if I could just rewind to the right spot, I could change it. Say something stronger, stand taller, color bluff. But I hadn't. I'd left like a kicked dog. The worst part? She didn't call. Not once. Lucinda Mendoza, the woman who micromanaged my grades and my diet since I was 11, didn't even send a damn text to see if I was alive. I started writing at night. Just little journal entries on my phone. About what it felt like to disappear. To have your own mother look at you like a stain on her perfect image. I didn't plan on sharing them, but something inside me cracked one night after I saw a girl at the 7-Eleven get screamed at by her mom in the parking lot. She looked just like me. Frozen. Swallowing her voice. So I posted, anonymously. Just one piece, titled, "When Your Mom Thinks You're Broken Beyond Repair." No names, no pity party. Just the truth. To my shock, people responded. Not bots, not trolls. Real people. Women, girls, even a few men. Sharing their own stories, some of them far worse than mine. And for the first time since I left home, I felt seen. Not pitied. Not judged. Just understood. I started writing every night. The posts got longer. I opened comments. I started getting messages, some heartbreaking, some just saying thank you. That's when Tara messaged me. She said she'd been following my posts for weeks, that she had a 6-year-old son with nonverbal autism and needed someone to help him with reading. Someone patient who wouldn't treat him like a burden. She couldn't pay much, but she had a couch and a fridge that wasn't empty. I didn't know whether to trust it. It felt too generous, too safe. But I had nothing to lose. So I showed up. Her house wasn't big, but it was warm. Her son, Mason, ran straight into me and hugged my leg like I was an old friend. Tara apologized, said he didn't usually do that. I just nodded, already trying not to cry. I stayed the night, then 2, then a week. I read to Mason. I helped him learn to point to words with flashcards. He made me laugh in a way I hadn't in months. Tara gave me space, but never made me feel like I had to earn her kindness. She left tea on the table every morning. The couch eventually became my couch. I started to breathe again. One night, over a late dinner, she asked what I used to study before everything happened. "Communications," I said. But I was always more into writing. She raised an eyebrow. "So those blog posts, you wrote all that?" I froze. I hadn't told her about the blog. She smiled. "Don't worry, I didn't snoop. You linked it in your email signature." I laughed, awkward and nervous. "Well," she said, "my best friend just launched an education startup. They're building digital tools for kids like Mason. They need a voice. Someone who gets it. Someone who can write from inside it." I blinked. "You think that's me?" "I know it's you." I didn't sleep much that night. Not because I was scared, because for the first time in forever, I felt like maybe this wasn't the end of my story. Maybe it was the beginning of something real. Something mine. But the next morning, as I made Mason's breakfast and opened my phone, I saw an email sitting at the top of my inbox from a name I hadn't read in months. Lucinda Mendoza. Subject line: "We need to talk." My hands started shaking. I hadn't heard from her since she slammed the door in my face. And now, after all this time, she suddenly wanted to talk? But nothing could have prepared me for what she was about to ask. And the real reason why. I didn't open the email at first. Just seeing her name, Lucinda Mendoza, made my stomach twist in a way I hadn't felt in months. I stared at that subject line like it might burn a hole through my phone. We need to talk. No greeting. No apology. Just 5 cold words. I closed the screen and went back to scrambling eggs for Mason. But my hands shook the entire time. Later that night, after Tara had gone to bed and Mason was curled up with his stuffed dinosaur, I finally opened the message. It was short. No warmth, no emotion. Just straight to the point. "Callie, I've come across some information about your writing. I have concerns. We need to talk. I suggest we speak privately before this goes any further. Lucinda." My heart stopped. She knew about the blog. Somehow she'd found the posts. The ones where I talked about the emotional abuse, the gaslighting, the way she'd shamed me and kicked me out. I never used her name, never said where I was from, but it didn't matter. She knew, and judging by her tone, she didn't care about the truth, only that someone might believe it. I didn't respond. 2 days later, I got a message through the blog's contact form. From an anonymous user? No name, no profile. "You should be careful what you say about people who sacrificed everything for you. You're not as anonymous as you think." I knew it was her. I felt sick. Not because I was afraid of her, but because after everything, after months of silence, this was her way of reaching out. Threats? Manipulation? I confided in Tara. She didn't say anything for a moment. Just took a long sip of her coffee and said, "Well, that confirms it. You're onto something powerful." Still, the pressure was getting to me. I started double-checking everything I wrote, editing out details, questioning myself. Maybe I was being unfair. Maybe it wasn't abuse. Maybe I was the problem. That's what she wanted me to believe, right? But then something happened that snapped me out of it. The founder of the education startup, his name was Ben, asked if I'd be willing to come on full-time. They were expanding. They loved my writing. He wanted me to lead their content team, build their brand voice from scratch. It was more money than I'd ever made in my life. Health insurance, a desk, my own space. It was the kind of offer people like me don't get. Not without a degree, not without a family name. Ben said, "Your writing makes people feel like they matter. That's the heart of what we're trying to build." I was stunned. Then he said something that almost made me drop my coffee. "We're in talks with a major education foundation. Big funding, but they're asking for bios on our team leads. Would you mind sending over your resume?" My blood went cold. I didn't have a resume. Not a real one. No degree, no formal experience, just my words, just the truth. I hesitated. Then I was honest with him. "I never finished school," I said. "I got pushed out of my family. I've been scraping by. I've been surviving." He nodded slowly. "I figured as much," he said, "and I still want you." I should have felt relief, but I didn't. Because later that night, another email came. This time from the foundation they were pitching to. It was polite, corporate, detached. "We've reviewed the background of your candidate. While her writing is impressive, we have concerns about her lack of formal qualifications. We're not comfortable moving forward with funding if she's representing your company in a leadership role." I sat in silence. My chest tightened. I knew exactly what had happened. My mother had reached out to them. I don't know how she found the contact or what she said, but the timing was too perfect. The language too familiar. Her fingerprints were all over it. I walked into the kitchen and stood there for a long time, staring at nothing. Tara found me there at 2 a.m., still frozen. "Did she do something?" she asked. I nodded. She just cost me the opportunity of a lifetime. Tara looked furious. "Then maybe it's time you stop hiding. Maybe it's time she answers for what she's done." I didn't say anything. I didn't need to, because the next morning I posted a new piece. Not anonymous, not hidden. I signed it with my full name, Callie Mendoza. I included screenshots, dates, receipts. I didn't attack. I didn't insult. I just told the truth. Exactly what happened the night I was thrown out, and how far she'd go to keep me silent. The post blew up. Thousands of shares in hours. But the real twist? That same afternoon, I got a message from my mother's hospital. She'd collapsed during a shift, and I was listed as her emergency contact. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. After everything she did to silence me, now she needed me. But what she didn't know was, I wasn't that scared little girl anymore. I didn't go to the hospital. I know how that sounds. But after everything, after the way she erased me, the way she sabotaged my chance at a future, I wasn't ready to show up like nothing had happened, like I owed her anything. The hospital left me 2 voicemails. The second one said she'd been discharged. No mention of her condition. No request for a callback. Just info, like I was a formality. Fine by me. Because at that point, I'd made a decision. If she wanted war, I'd give her silence. If she wanted control, I'd show her what it looks like when I take the reins. 3 weeks later, Ben called me back. Said the funding deal had gone south for now, but they weren't giving up. He offered me a new position. Freelance lead content strategist. Less pressure. More creative control. And I could work from anywhere. So I packed up my things from Tara's. Not out of resentment, she'd become like family, but because I was finally ready to stand on my own. I found a cheap studio downtown. No cockroaches, decent plumbing, and just enough space for my laptop, a futon, and a bulletin board where I'd pin every milestone I hit. I started from scratch. Again. But this time, it wasn't about surviving. It was about building something. I wrote copy for companies that couldn't afford agencies. I helped a local bakery revamp their social media and doubled their weekend foot traffic. I worked with a tutoring nonprofit to create resources for ESL students, and their donations tripled. Word got around. Clients referred clients. Then, one day, I walked into a cafe to meet a potential investor. It was supposed to be just another consultation, but the woman waiting for me looked oddly familiar. Hair pulled into a sleek bun, impeccably dressed, a polished smile that didn't quite reach the eyes. "Callie Mendoza," she said, extending her hand. "I'm here on behalf of the Western Education Fund. We're interested in what you're building." The name clicked before her face did. Western Education Fund was the same foundation that pulled out of funding when Lucinda got involved. I narrowed my eyes. "Nice to meet you," I said coolly. "You look familiar." Her smile tightened. "I don't believe we've met. I do a lot of community outreach." We sat, we talked, she danced around it. I didn't bite, but something in her tone, it had that same clipped cadence, that same air of entitlement I'd spent years trying to shed. And then, just before she left, she slipped up. "We were surprised to hear you were behind this. After everything that happened with your mother, well, it takes courage to rebound." My blood froze. I hadn't mentioned Lucinda. Not once. Not in the meeting, not in my pitch deck, not in anything. She knew. Not just about me, about the past, about everything. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't let myself believe before. My mother had been feeding them information from the start. Not out of concern. Not to protect anyone. But because she couldn't stand the idea that I was succeeding without her name attached. I walked out of that cafe shaking with rage. But it wasn't helpless rage anymore. It was sharp, controlled, and pointed. That night, I opened my laptop and made a public announcement on my blog. Next month, I'll be hosting my first live workshop, Story as Resistance, Writing Through the Wounds. I'll be sharing tools I used to go from invisible to independent. Location: Albuquerque Public Library. Speaker: Callie Mendoza. Guest panelists: survivors, educators, and maybe a few faces from my past. The post exploded. But the twist? The library event got picked up by the local paper, then the regional NPR affiliate, then an online magazine that specialized in Latina changemakers. And the photo they ran with it? A headshot of me, standing in front of the words, "Your story matters," even if they tried to erase it. That image went viral, and it was printed, full-page spread, in the weekend edition of the Albuquerque Journal. Right there, on the coffee table of the Mendoza household. I know because someone took a photo of Lucinda standing in her living room, holding the newspaper, her face half shadowed, half exposed. And the caption someone added on Twitter? When you spend your life trying to control someone, and they become too powerful to silence. She hadn't just lost control of me. She'd lost the one thing she valued more than reputation: her narrative. And the next day, I got an invitation I never saw coming. From the same conference she once brought me to as a teenager, as her bright, promising daughter. This time, they were inviting me as keynote speaker, not her. And guess who was listed as a guest in the audience? The morning of the conference, I woke up before my alarm. Couldn't sleep. My hands were steady, but my chest felt tight in a way I hadn't felt since I was 19 and standing in the hallway with a backpack, rain in my hair, and my mother's voice telling me I was nothing. Only this time, I wasn't walking out. I was walking in. The venue was packed. Over 400 attendees, teachers, counselors, students. I stood backstage behind the curtain, mic already clipped to my blazer. A volunteer brought me coffee I didn't drink. The air was thick with anticipation. Then the event coordinator whispered, "Your mom just arrived." Front row, center. Of course. Lucinda Mendoza walked in like she owned the place. Tailored suit, glossy hair, that same carefully composed expression I'd seen 100 times at PTA meetings and charity galas. But this time, she wasn't the one being introduced. She was just another name on a guest list. And when the announcer read mine, the applause started before I even stepped into the light. I took the stage slow, calm, no trembling hands, no dry mouth, just breathe. "Good morning," I said. "My name is Callie Mendoza. I'm the founder of Rise Words, and I used to believe my story didn't matter." I paused. Then I told the truth. Not the dramatized version. Not the blog version. The raw version. I talked about being thrown out. About surviving in a car. About rebuilding from nothing. I didn't name her. I didn't have to. Every word was a mirror, and I knew exactly who was catching her reflection in it. By the time I finished, people were crying, standing, clapping. But what happened after the speech, that's what changed everything. Because the local superintendent, who'd been sitting 2 seats down from my mother, approached me. He shook my hand and said, "You just did what our entire district hasn't been able to do in 10 years. You made trauma survivable in a room full of strangers." Then he turned to Lucinda, who was trying to slip out. He asked, "Aren't you her mother?" She froze. "I was," she said. "A long time ago." He raised an eyebrow. "You still are. You just weren't paying attention." The silence in that hallway was sharp. Then he added, "We're reviewing all district liaisons next quarter. Maybe it's time we bring in people who listen better." And just like that, the mask cracked. She turned to me, her voice low, shaking. "Are you proud of this? Tearing your own family apart for a microphone?" I didn't flinch. Number, I'm proud I survived the silence. She opened her mouth, closed it. For the first time, I saw her not as my mother, but as a woman who built a life out of control and was watching it slip through her fingers. She didn't say goodbye. She just left. Weeks later, I heard through the grapevine. The board removed her from her position on the local education panel. Quietly, of course. The way people like her always hope things disappear. But this time, the silence belonged to her. Meanwhile, RiseWords got 2 new funding offers. I hired my first team. We launched a mentorship program for at-risk girls in the exact district that once called me unstable. I bought a plane ticket for Rosa, my abuela. She'd never flown before. I brought her out to see my new office with her photo framed on my desk. She held my hand and said, "You're not broken. You were just born in a house too small for your spirit." I used to think revenge meant watching them suffer. Now I know. It's being unshakably seen. I don't have all the answers. But here's what I know. Closure doesn't always come with an apology. Sometimes it's just the sound of your own voice echoing in a space you were told you didn't belong. If you've ever been cast aside, silenced, or told you weren't enough, I want to hear your story. Drop it in the comments. Let someone else know they're not alone. And if this hit home for you, you can stick around. There's more where this came from. Thanks for listening to mine.